Okay, what I'm going to do here is take the top heat spreader off my Ivy Bridge processor to replace with my own thermal paste because I'm just getting really bad temperatures. Right now the computer is running Prime 95 stress test, and you can see that one of the core is almost at 100 degrees, and you can also see that the difference between the top and the bottom core is over 30 degrees. This is an IR gun, and it's showing ambient temperatures are around 26, 27 degrees. Okay, now these bad temperatures aren't because I have bad mounts on my CPU cooler, because I actually mounted it several times and I tested at many different voltages, and it's consistently showing bad results. You can see here. Okay, and I was planning to overclock this processor to around 4.5 gigahertz, but the temperatures got too high, and I'm actually undervolting it right now to reduce the temperature. So right now it's only running about 4 gigahertz. Okay, so I'm going to take all this hardware apart and do the mod right now. Okay, so I just took apart all the hardware and took out the processor. This particular one that I'm going to be doing is an Ivy Bridge i5-3570K. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is taking off this top copper heat spreader on the processor to apply your own thermal paste. Okay, the only hardware you really need is a really sharp, thin blade. You don't want to use anything like a kitchen knife or a pocket knife because those are just too thick and probably not sharp enough. Okay, let's get started. Okay, what you want to do is take the blade and slide it in between the top heatsink and the PCB. You probably want to start with the corners because it's probably the easier to get in between the little cracks. Well, a little safety tip first. Before we actually really start, you want to discharge yourself of any static electricity, because on the bottom here you can see some really small and sensitive capacitors. Right now I have my feet on a metal frame on the bottom of my desk, so that should be good enough. And when you push the blade in, make sure it's perfectly flat, because you don't want to dig the sharp blade into the PCB because there's little small traces that you can cut into. Right, if you didn't already know, Ivy Bridge processors, Intel decided to put a really cheap thermal paste between the processor die and the heatsink. So that's why there's such bad temperatures. But with the older Sandy Bridge and older generation processors, they use soldering, so that has a much higher thermal conductivity than this cheap thermal paste. So that's why we're doing this. This is actually the first time I'm doing this. Um, and also when you slide it in there, you might want to be careful because since there's a little bit of thickness to the blade, it kind of bends the PCB. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's actually bending my the bottom PCB. Alright, I got all my corners, and after you do the corners, what you can do is you put the blade in, and you can just cut along the whole edges like this, or you can wiggle it around, whatever is easier. And just be careful that the actual die, it runs this way, perpendicular to these two little flaps. So you don't want to cut too far in this way and this way because you actually hit the die. Alright, this side is done. This side is through. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Then you take it off. I'm probably just gonna gently twist it until it comes off. Okay, there it is. Yeah, this is really cheap thermal paste. It's like cement. This is really hard. Okay, so you can just wipe it off. Yeah, this feels like cement. See? Okay, next, you'd probably want to clear. You probably want to clear all this little black stuff, this old glue that they used, because you don't need this anymore. There, it's done. Okay, here is the bare chip. Now, we're gonna put thermal paste on it. Here is all my thermal paste. I used up most of my I used up all my good ones already. So the next best one is probably let's see, I see diamond. But then since I know this one scratches the CPU die since it's made of diamond, I'm probably not going to use that one. I guess I'll use MX2 instead. This one I'll use a line method since the die is a rectangular shape. It's not a perfect square. Just put it in a straight line like this. Don't put too much. Okay, now let's put it onto the motherboard. This is my Asus Maximus 5 Genie. Now when you install it, you don't have to glue the top heat spreader back on. There's a retention bracket that just keeps it in place. So what you want to do first is put the die gently in the socket. Okay. Just remember that there's two little notches here that it has to fit. Make sure it doesn't move around too much. And when you put it back, the little heat spreader has a little notch right here. This goes to the bottom of the CPU, so it's towards this little black thing right here. When you put it on, just make sure it's aligned with how you took it off. Make sure it's straight. Okay, and you don't have to glue it back on. The little top bracket here just holds it down. Okay, that should be good. Alright, let's install everything and see what does it results. I just assembled everything. All the hardware and the BIOS settings are exactly the same. Ambient temperature is around 27 degrees. It's still running Prime 95 stress test, and you can see the results right here. You can see that this top core right here, it had a dramatic decrease in temperature, but what's more important is that all the cores has a very consistent temperature. They're all around the same. You can see the max temperatures right here. It's still running 4 gigahertz. And here's a comparison if you don't remember. Okay, you can see that the first core right here, there's about a 40 degrees difference, and there's not that big of a difference between the coolest running core, but then keep in mind that I had to undervolt the processor just to get this temperature because the first core was running way too hot. It hit almost 100 degrees. I shouldn't even have to do that in the first place, which leads me to believe that I had a defective processor, but this mod seemed to fix that problem. Okay, the practical application of this is you can get a higher max overclock, or you can turn down your fans, which result in a more quiet computer. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my results, and I hope this helps.